Welcome, everyone, to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller. Welcome, everyone, to a brand new week, an exciting week, rivalry week, as Drake, both men and women, play you and I. Women play Saturday around 1 o'clock, men Wednesday night. Can't wait to dive into those games more often. We have a lot to get to with it being a Monday. We always have a lot to get to, but NFL over the weekend, Drake men and women winning over the weekend as well, and just Missouri Valley as a whole. But first off, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in this morning and dealing with my technical issues that was all on me. Nothing on Trav and Ross with their new show, The Rush, that I'm so happy they're back together, and I'm happy that they had me on as their first guest. I'll be back on Wednesday to preview the Drake UNI game. But so to explain what happened real quick with the technical glitch, Trav did everything right. Sent the email to the right email. But with Apple computers, I'm sure anyone who has an Apple product has gone through this before, where it looks like it should just be a quick, easy link. You click on it, and then all of a sudden it's like, Apple doesn't trust this link. And you have to download like two other apps to make sure you can download it and click on the link. That's what happened to me. So that's why I was like, screw it, I'm just going to call them. And it was fun. But I am excited for Wednesday when I will actually be on camera with the guys, and it'll be more professional on my end. And I apologize for that, but really excited for what Trav and Ross are doing. So excited to see what they can do moving forward as well. So make sure you tune in around 7:30 on Wednesday as well to The Rush. You can check out all their stuff on social media. I've been promoting it as well on my social media as well. So let's get into it. We had Drake women split over the weekend. Again, just a tough stretch for Allison Pullman and the women, because they had to go up against the top three teams in the Missouri Valley, against Belmont at home, Murray State at home, and then you go on the road to play Missouri State. And that game is just insane. Goes into overtime. They hit a shot it felt like there was less than a second left, but they hit the shot to tie it up to go into overtime, and then Drake just not able to get through Missouri State on Friday. But then Sunday, they go up against a team that's not as good in SIU and do what they need to do. 93-66 victory for the Drake women. They now improved to 12-8. They're 6-3 in the Missouri Valley. Broke out of a 3-game losing streak that they were in. Drake, just to talk about the performance and this longevity that Pullman has had of great success. Drake hasn't lost 3 games in the Missouri Valley in a row in 2 years. And this is on the women's side. The Missouri Valley is really balanced and tough. And the men's side is looking that way too, but just more consistently, the women, it looked like it was more of a balanced conference. And so going on the road is never easy. They're able to beat SIU. And they improved now to 6-3 in the Missouri Valley Conference. And like we said, you were going up against 3 of the best before that SIU game. Murray State 8-1 in the Missouri Valley, Belmont 8-1, Missouri State 7-1. Those are tough teams and really talented teams. And with Drake, what they were able to do against SIU that they weren't able to do in any of the other games was just be able to, yes, still utilize Dinnebeer and Miller as the main assets and attack points of this offense, but be able to get help from other people. So against SIU, who is 1-7 now in the Missouri Valley, Dinnebeer and Miller put up 14 points. Around normal for Anna Miller, maybe a little on the low end for Katie Dinnebeer, but Drake was fine and able to dominate because of the other players stepping up, and none bigger than the transfer junior from Illinois State in Abby Alsma. Abby Alsma, a career-high 20 points, was efficient from the three-point line, shot 50%, and just was on attack mode. Just found great success against SIU. And then you had 36 points in total from the bench from the Drake Bulldogs. And while, you're not expecting 36 points from the bench every time, you do want to see Ava Hawthorne start to get more involved. And I think Allison Pullman is starting to find ways to get her more touches, more looks where she's comfortable shooting the ball and attacking offensively. And she's doing a good job of trying to find different ways to get Ava Hawthorne involved. But just talking about how Hawthorne is so vital to Drake's success and the way she plays, the Drake Bulldogs are 9-3 this season when Ava Hawthorne scored 6+ points. And that's huge. Just having that player off the bench to be able to come out and really go into attack mode. And she started off as a starter and got moved to the bench, not for her playing style, but just for fit. And she doesn't complain. She doesn't have her head held down. She's cheering on her teammates when she's on the bench and not playing. But she's just completely embraced that sixth player role and continues to be, I think, one of my favorites for that award by the end of the season if she continues to keep playing at a consistent level. And so she goes up against SIU, scores 9 points off the bench. Like we said, the bench scores 36, a huge night. All players played 13 for the Drake Bulldogs. 11 of them put up points. So just a huge outing against SIU and kind of what we expected. I think on Friday's show, I mentioned how against Missouri State on the road, that's going to be really tough. I did think it was going to be close, but I did pick Missouri State to win. I just think winning on the road, and we just hadn't seen Drake get that efficient balance from their team offensively in a while, and I thought that was still going to be an issue. Then you move to SIU, where we all said on Friday as well that is a perfect opportunity for Drake to just get confidence back, as well as getting a W in the column too. And that's what they did. I think this is going to rejuvenate their confidence, and now they move on to play in-state rivals UNI over the weekend. And UNI is no slouch. That is a team that is still playing at a really high level. The guard play between Dinnebeer and McDermott is going to be must-watch TV come Saturday. Those two are some of the best guards in the Valley. And these are two teams that know each other well. Coaches have been there a while, and the two teams don't like each other, and they always have great battles. Maya McDermott last year had an amazing performance at the Knapp Center. And so that is going to be fun. But that SIU win is huge. And yes, Drake was favored and they handled business, but it's just huge in the confidence side of things. Now the team has seen, okay, yes, this is how we should look. Yes, this is what we look like when things are clicking, when we're able to get balance offensively, when we're moving the ball around. I think every player had an assist, or maybe it was like 10 out of the 13 had an assist. And that's what Pullman, I think, has done extremely well this season, is really pushing that ball movement of making sure everybody is touching the ball. And a big part of that is why we were seeing Drake for that 4-3 game stretch where they were consistently putting up 20+ assists. That was a huge part of it. So the Drake Bulldogs take on UNI on Saturday. That one should be fun. Way to kick off February, last month of the regular season before you get into March Madness time. So now let's jump ahead to the Drake men. Drake men 18-2, 8-2 in the Missouri Valley, 69-62 win in overtime versus Missouri State. Something about that arena, I guess. Both teams having to play some free basketball. Mo State, again, a team that is very talented with their starting five. They are a team that will compete. They competed against Bradley. They forced Drake into overtime. They just don't have any depth. They don't have anything. I mean, Drake, a team that we've talked about that needs help with balance, and they're starting to improve on that. But the bench just purely, just dominated this game for Drake. 21-7, the bench point differential. And that's the reason Drake wins that game. And so you look at that, and then a big thing for me was the 50-50 balls. Now, you look at the offensive rebounds. Both teams were right around the same. I think Drake had one more than Missouri State. But the 50-50 balls that gave Drake second chance points, second chance efforts when there was a possible turnover, those were huge. And that's the reason that, on top of the bench points, is the reason Drake was able to win that game. Was just they were hustling for the extra possessions, and Missouri State just got worn out towards the end. And you saw that because at halftime, Drake led 35-25, which now Drake is 15-1 when leading at half. But they got outscored in the second half. I mean, Missouri State was doing whatever they wanted. There was no defense McCollum could put out there to really make Missouri State struggle. And they got outscored 30-20 in the second half. But like we said, when you don't have depth, that extra 5 minutes in overtime is going to wear a offense out, a team out like Missouri State when they don't have anyone to come help them. And so they got outscored 14-7 in overtime, and Drake wins that one in Missouri State, 18-2 now overall, winning 69-62. Sturts puts up a quiet 18. I feel like, Alyssa Hurdle from the Des Moines Register, who covers the Drake men's basketball team, we talk quite often, during the games, and she was saying the last home game where it just feels like Sturts just has these quiet games. He doesn't put up 20 in a loud fashion usually. So 18 points. I looked at the box score thinking Mascari was going to be the leading scorer with his 13. And all of a sudden I'm like, I didn't even notice Sturts had 18. I mean, he's just so calm, collected, confident that he doesn't show off. So you kind of get lost of when he scored. And I love him. I think he reminds me so much of like those Aaron Craft type players, Tim Duncan, and just like the mannerisms, not necessarily the play style, but just the mannerisms of I'm here to, win a basketball game, do my business and get out, not showboating for the most part. He'll show some emotion, but overall, I mean, McCollum, there's no difference from him hitting the game-winning 3 versus Kansas State to him getting yelled at by McCollum heading towards the bench to shoot more. There is no difference in his emotions and his play style. He is so confident, so calm, cool, collected, and that's a big reason of, I think, why he's such a strong leader for this team is because of his confidence, because of his mannerisms. So huge shout out to the bench, 21 points, only 7 points off the bench for Missouri State. Mascari, again, had 10 points in the first half, only 3 in the second, so started to slow down a little. But again, he's getting open shots, and I think that's the big part because he is going to make those more often than not. And it's more just McCollum the plays are working. I mean, sometimes the shots just don't fall. Kind of like how McCollum isn't too worried about like free throws when they don't fall. Sometimes they fall, sometimes they don't. With Mascari in open threes, that's how I feel. Where, like more often than not, he's going to make those. And it's more just satisfying after a really tough stretch, basically after that Kansas State game, that he has been able to become more of a factor offensively. And he's starting to get plays set up for him where he's wide open or doesn't have to heave up the ball with only 2 seconds on the shot clock. That's the stuff I want to see. Those are the improvements we asked for and we're starting to see from McCollum. And so that's huge. 13 points from him. Just a great stretch from Mitch here to kind of finish up January in the Missouri Valley Conference. And hopefully he can continue to roll into Wednesday against UNI and then heading into February, the last month before Arch Madness. So they take on UNI next Wednesday, or this Wednesday, at 6 o'clock. UNI 7-3 in the Missouri Valley, 13-8 overall with 2 straight wins. UNI just purely dominated Indiana State not too long ago. And so it'll be a tough game. These games are always fun. I'm kind of a tease for the week, trying to get a big guest on for Wednesday who has experience in playing in these Drake UNI games. So hopefully be able to get him on and have a fun discussion talking about, what it feels like to put on the Drake uniform and take on UNI and like how that changes over the years. So I'm not going to spoil it just in case if he can't do it, because that would suck. But trying to get a guest on for Wednesday's game, that would be really exciting. But let's go through the Missouri Valley Conference standings here. You have Bradley at 9-1, 18-3 overall, won 5 in a row, and have won by 10+ in 3 of their last 4, just purely dominating Missouri Valley Conference teams. That Illinois State game was fun to watch on CBS Sports Network on, I think it was Saturday, and I thought Illinois State was going to be able to pull it out, but Bradley just so strong and so versatile. I mean, you got Hannah who can shoot threes, but you can also post up anyone. And you have great ball movement. You have experienced players. You have an experienced coach. This Bradley team has been woken up since that Drake loss. That was the worst second half I've seen from Bradley. And since then, I mean, like we said, 10+ game or 3 out of the last 4 games, they've won by 10+ points. So Bradley winning 5 in a row, looking like they're not going to slow down anytime soon. But in the Missouri Valley, I mean, things can get even crazier. Who knows? Drake, they lead the conference with the longest win streak right now at 6. They're 8-2, 18-2 overall. And real impressive offenses we've seen now from UIC and Belmont. Belmont over the weekend, 55 points at half. Holy cow. And these are 2 teams that, I mean, they may not be great at defense, but how many teams have we seen over the years in any conference that when the offense is on, they're unstoppable. And like I really correlate this Belmont team that really focuses on the 3 ball, much like that Auburn team that went on the Final Four run. Now, I'm not saying Belmont's going to win the conference. I'm not even saying Belmont's going to go to March Madness. But I'm just saying in the sense of a team where maybe during the regular season, you're watching them and going, they just live by the 3, die by the 3. But if they get hot at the right time, that Auburn team went on to knock off a Kentucky team that looked like a Final Four team, went on to knock off a Tennessee team at the time that I thought was going to win the whole thing. And so you never know with a team like Belmont, like UIC, that just focuses on offense and is so talented offensively, what they could do down the stretch. And I have more confidence in Belmont being a factor come to Arch Madness because they've been more consistent and they've had more. I just think they're more. They have that veteran experience, and I think UIC is still a good team, but I like the consistency that Belmont has. So Belmont, though, and UIC kind of sit in there in the middle of the pack, just ready to attack whenever, and Belmont putting up 55 at halftime is still just insane. And then you have Indiana State. What is going on with Indiana State? Because I was big on this team right before kind of conference play or early part of conference play, where I was like, this is a team that if Drake wasn't undefeated at the time, they're the ones that are getting talked about the most in the Missouri Valley because they had the same issue Drake did of losing so many key factors. But they just have fallen off the rails. Now, plenty of time, and, the games that matter the most are the ones in March. I get that cliche, but still, if you're a fan of Indiana State, you have to be concerned of what is going on in these last few games. And now you're not at the start of the season, maybe you wouldn't have been shocked if they were down this low, without a head coach, without your best player, kind of like how Drake fans probably would be. But Indiana State was not projected to be one of the last teams in the preseason poll. Drake was projected in the top 5 still with losing everything. And they started off so strong, and you saw their ability, what they're capable of. And all of a sudden, now they've lost 6 in a row. They're 3-7 in the Missouri Valley Conference. And then against the kind of the top teams at this moment, they're not competing. Like, it's not even close. Drake, a team that I've constantly said just doesn't blow teams out. It's just not their DNA. They lost to Drake at home by 18 points. And then over the weekend, lost to UNI by 18 points. And then the worst one against the main top dog, the team leading the Missouri Valley Conference, where you really want to see where you stack up, just absolutely doesn't show up. Indiana State loses by 53 to Bradley on the road. And they competed with Bradley early on, too. That's the thing. So earlier in the conference play, when they were starting to get into a rhythm, they competed with Bradley, and it was a Duke Dean layup with 2 seconds left that gave that game away and made them lose at home. But now you go on the road to Bradley, get dominated, and you're just not competing against the top dogs. So Indiana State, I'm really concerned about that team. We've mentioned how it really goes through Teal, and that's about it. They don't have a great starting lineup. They don't have great bench players. This is just a team kind of a lot of holes on this Indiana State squad. And then to round it out, the team that Drake beat, and I did not think would struggle as much and go into overtime, but still got the victory. A win's a win, I guess. But losing to Missouri State, that would have been their worst loss of the season by far. But Missouri State losing 9 in a row now, still winless in the Missouri Valley Conference, 0-10 in the conference. Just real tough goodbye to Missouri State, I guess, for them out of this conference as they leave after this season. But that's your Missouri Valley Conference standings as of Monday here on January 27th. A lot can change here this week. And be sure to keep following along on Media Row as we follow along with the Missouri Valley Conference. So, to recap, the Drake women play on Saturday at 2 o'clock against UNI. The Drake men play on Wednesday against UNI as well. Tomorrow, we'll kind of break down more of what we saw from the women's side of things. And also there's one Missouri Valley Conference game tonight for the men. And that is Southern Illinois at Valpo. Could be a good game. Southern Illinois, a team that is still on, towards the bottom of the conference, but they're ahead of Indiana State. And now a good opportunity to try to get a victory over Valpo, but going on the road against Valpo. Valpo, one of the best teams at home in the Missouri Valley Conference. I think they're the 3rd best team at home in the conference. So it'll be tough for SIU, but we'll break down that game as well tomorrow. But before we wrap up today's show, definitely want to hit on the NFL championships that we saw yesterday. So, yes, it will be the Eagles and Chiefs, and I sigh because, man, we've seen that Super Bowl. I wanted something. We love parody. It's weird. Sports, if you're just a fan of football, you're in this weird balance of you love seeing dynasties. Admit it or not, we love a good dynasty, even if it's not your team. I mean, the Patriots run, everybody tuned in to watch the Patriots. Everybody's tuning in to watch the Chiefs, like them or not. And you like a good hero, you love a good villain. And that's kind of where the Chiefs are at right now. And while we're in this weird thing of where we love dynasties, but we also love parody, is we've seen the Super Bowl before, and it was 2 teams that, do they deserve to be in the Super Bowl? Yeah, they won games that mattered. But man, doesn't it feel like these aren't the 2 best teams in the NFL? I mean, I really thought the 2 best teams throughout the season were the Lions and the Bills. And they lost. And so, yes, the Chiefs and Eagles deserve to be in the playoffs. I'm not saying they don't. But it's just one of those where it goes, damn, I feel like we're stripped away from a really good Super Bowl opportunity. But nonetheless, the Eagles dominate the Commanders 55-23. Jalen Hurts, who isn't, known for passing the ball, has a passing touchdown, 246 yards, only 8 incompletions, 3 rushing touchdowns, so there's his bread and butter. And the Commanders, all they had to try to do defensively was just try to stop the run. Easier said than done because you have a quarterback in Hurts that rushes for 3 touchdowns. And then you have Saquon Barkley, who just dominates 118 yards, 3 total touchdowns. And it was just over by halftime, it felt like. I mean, it was one of those, I think in the middle of the third quarter, I'm always on my phone. I have like ADHD. Even while watching a game, how many times I pull up my phone. That's why I quit fantasy football, was one of those big reasons, was I was tired of just flipping through my phone. But when it's a blowout like that, yeah, I'm on my phone a little more, checking out Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. But with all that being said, while the Eagles do dominate, the Commanders have a good future coming up. The Commanders have just a few parts defensively that they need to fix. I mean, Bobby Wagner's still playing at a great level, but he is getting older, so you're going to have to find middle linebackers to help out. The secondary wasn't the best this season. Lattimore, I think, with a few pass interference calls defensively. So the secondary has some holes to build too. You always want to make sure the offensive line is good to go to protect Daniels. But if I'm a Commanders fan, yeah, it sucks. It sucks losing in the NFC Championship, being that close to going to the Super Bowl. But you have to be really excited because you do have a franchise quarterback now. Like, if you make it to the NFC Championship game in your first year, yeah, you definitely have your franchise quarterback to build around. Get a few good running backs. I mean, the wide receiver scenario you can always build up on too. McLaurin, though, is still at an all-time level. So I like the future for the Commanders a lot, actually. And I think it's a good time to remind everyone after watching that game that the Giants GM, the Giants scenario, would have been a hell of a lot better if the GM would have listened to his teenage son. Did anyone else watch that Hard Knocks where he's sitting there before draft day and he asks his son, who's laying down on the couch, like throwing the football up in the air, and he asks him, he goes, hey, who would you draft in the first round? And he goes, Jaden Daniels. And he even goes, Dad, like, you get this job once. Go get Jaden Daniels. And not only did they not get Jaden Daniels, they got rid of Saquon Barkley, trying to hope that Daniel Jones was the guy. Awful. Just awful from the front office of the Giants. And that NFC Championship game just proved it because you have Barkley. I mean, that dude is on a tear. And then you have Daniels, who's about to win Rookie of the Year and just led a team to the NFC Championship. I mean, the Giants are just a bad organization, just a bad one right now. So Eagles move on, and then on the AFC side of things, you have the Chiefs beating the Bills 32-29. First team now trying to become the first team to win 3 straight. And not the Super Bowl match anyone really wanted, I don't think, unless you're an Eagles or Chiefs fan, of course. But we saw the Super Bowl a few years ago in 2023. It was a great Super Bowl, but the two teams look different this year. They're still really good, but I don't see it being a 38-35 type game. It's going to be a lower scoring game because you have a really good defense in the Eagles going up against a Chiefs offense that looks good. It shows sparks of like what they could really be and how good they can be. But man, maybe I'm crazy. Like, comment. I always ask for that. And I'm really interested in hearing your guys' comments about what I'm about to say here. Doesn't it feel like the Chiefs offense just isn't clicking. Maybe not clicking is the good word, but isn't as dominant as what we're used to seeing. Maybe that's just recency bias and seeing how they didn't really blow anyone out throughout the regular season as often as they usually do. I don't know, but maybe I'm just wrong in that. But I seriously feel like this Kelsey doesn't look as dominant as he usually does, and they're not taking as many deep shots down the field as they used to. And maybe that's the big difference. They're still winning, and we'll get into kind of how balanced they were against the Bills and how that's why they won. But yeah, it just feels the Chiefs just aren't as dominant as they have been in years prior. So yeah, the Super Bowl matchup I'm not super stoked about by any means. I'll still watch it, of course. But yeah, I think I might be on the Chiefs side just to see history. Never seen a team win 3 straight. But I do, before we wrap up today, want to get on my soapbox for a second. Because all I've seen this morning, all I saw last night, was the refs helped the Chiefs. The refs did this. The refs did that. Chiefs don't deserve to be in the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. Can we stop it with the Chiefs refs argument? I mean, yes. Are there times where it definitely feels like the Chiefs get the benefit of the doubt? Absolutely. I've seen the stats where in the postseason, the Chiefs, I think they've won 10 straight postseason games. I think out of all 10, they have not been more penalized than their opponents once. So yeah, that looks weird and it jumps off the page. But last night, everyone was focused in on that 4th down play by Josh Allen. And was it a bad call? Yes. Josh Allen had that 1st down. I thought that was a poorly reffed moment in the game where I thought Josh had the 4th and 1. He definitely got it. You have 2 refs with completely different spots of the ball. And then how do you not even measure that placement? I mean, it's an AFC championship game. How do you not measure it? With, 2 differing refs, which we've seen before in the NFL, how do they not meet up and go, all right, let's just measure it? That was wild. No measurement. But with all that being said, like I said, it was a bad call. But with all that being said, that is not why the Bills lost by any means. 1, it was early in the 4th quarter. 2, the Bills were winning at that point. The Bills were up 22-21. And what lost the Bills that game was they allowed Kansas City to just really run with ease. Mahomes was able to run out of the pocket tremendously well. And then they had 135 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. And it was a great game. The Bills just simply lost. And I feel for Josh Allen. I do. I was rooting for the Bills last night, to be honest. I really wanted to see the upset. I wanted to see Josh Allen get to the Super Bowl because he's been so good. In this Bills team, the defense wasn't great all season long, but the offense, Josh Allen did everything for that team. And so seeing again him lose a 1-score game to the Chiefs just really is painful. But I didn't think the refs screwed over the Bills. To the point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm boycotting the Super Bowl, like some people are saying. It was just simply the Bills lost in a great playoff game. But so you'll have Chiefs and Eagles in 2 weeks. I hate how they stretch out the Super Bowl, but you got to make money, so I understand it, but it does suck. I wish it was this Sunday and not next Sunday. But regardless, it'll be Eagles and Chiefs. Chiefs trying to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. So tomorrow, like we said, focus a little more on what we saw from the Drake women and just women's hoops in the Missouri Valley in general. Talk about what we saw from tonight in SIU Valpo, and more fun discussion here on Media Row. Make sure to tune in at 2 o'clock.